Hi, writers. Welcome to episode number 66. Appropriately, I am filming this on Halloween, although it won't be released till later this week. I'm Rachael Herron, and I'm just so glad that you are here with me today. I have a fantastic guest. She's been a friend of mine for a long time, and I have been nagging her to come on the show forever. Her name is Veronica Wolff. She's fantastic. She really knows what she's doing in this game. She's been at it a while, and she's really good at talking about it. And I found talking to her super inspiring, as I am sure you will. I really love the way she takes a direct look at what we do and why we're doing this. And also, it's just a delight to talk to my friends on this show. So I know that you will enjoy her. In a little bit of an update, I'm just finishing up a Patreon essay to go out hopefully today, I believe. This one was really fun for me to write. What I do on the Patreon, patreon.com/Rachael, is I write essays about creativity, and putting together a book, and everybody who's a patron gets the book when the book is done. But this particular essay is about the wanting. We all have this want in life. We all have this kind of this hole that we want to fill. Many people fill it with things like shopping, addiction, zoning out in front of television. But what a lot of creative people do is we fill that want with making things. The want, that desire, actually is about creation, is about making things. And I talk a lot in the essay about how dopamine actually drives desire. Dopamine is not, as is commonly thought, the pleasure neurotransmitter. It actually does not transmit pleasure. It is in charge of desire and longing. So looking at the connection between dopamine and how we work as creative people has been a really fascinating thing to study this last couple weeks, and I'm really proud of the essay, so I'm glad that that's going to be winging its way out into the world. And another thing I'm really happy and grateful about, I'm feeling very profoundly grateful today, I think is a safe way to say it, is the fact that this last weekend I got to go to the Writer's Digest conference in LA, and I did not know what to expect. I've been to a lot of writing conferences, and sometimes I will admit they leave me a little soul sucked. I leave a conference and I either feel overwhelmed with how much I still have to do and learn and know, and all the myriad ways that I'm behind, not doing as well as I can. And that absolutely didn't happen at this conference. This conference was just such a buoy. I love RWA. I love RWA conferences, but RWA conferences, Romance Writers of America conferences, they're national, they're huge. They have about 2,000 people at each conference. And I got to tell you, romance authors are the most knowledgeable writers in the industry. They know everything. They, and I include myself in that, they also can be pretty jaded about the industry. We've all had a lot of heartbreak in it. Writing hurts. Being a published writer is not easy. This is not for the faint of heart. So RWA conferences are often a venue in which a lot of us kind of whine and complain and worry out loud and Chicken Little, the sky is falling. And that's not always the case. There's a great deal of joy and hope and passion and excitement, of course. But the Writer's Digest conference, I know that there were attendees who have been writing a while, who have books that are published, who were there to up their game. But interestingly, there were a lot of brand new newbies, people who do not have a writing community of any sort, people whose only information about writing has been what they've gleaned over the years from the very excellent magazine, which Writer's Digest is. So I swear to you, almost everybody I talked to said, this is my first conference of any kind. And the vibe was incredible. I led 2 sessions, one on plotting, one on romance, and I was on a panel for women's fiction. And in each of those rooms, and including all the other rooms that I went into to watch other presenters, they were full of people who just sat in their chairs, leaning forward with huge eyes, and everyone was taking notes and everyone was excited. People wanted to be there. They wanted to learn. They didn't, I'm sure everybody wanted to learn how to, make $1 million with your self-published next bestseller, but there were fewer of those people and way more people who love writing, who want to get it done, who want to learn more about what this writing life is like and what it's all about and how to do it. And I found it simply astonishingly inspirational. I loved every minute that I was there. Normally at conferences, I grab one or two people that I kind of fall in love with and they become my friends, and I just glom them onto myself, and I hope they don't mind. But this time, Sophie Littlefield and I went together and we roomed, and we counted on the way. Well, after the conference was over, we counted like how many of these people that we really liked do we want to hold on to. Like, we really want them to be our friends and come to our houses and continue walking down this path together. And we counted 9. And these are not multi-published people. These are just writers, a bunch of them who have never published anything yet, who are just just starting. But for some reason, this particular conference, the Writer's Digest conference, attracted the best people. We had such a wonderful time. So shout out to all the people that I met. I can't even name them, but Thomas, I am thinking specifically of you because there was this nice gentleman sitting next to us in the bar the very first night. Sophie and I went down to get a drink and found it inexplicably empty, which is not normal at a writer's conference, except for Thomas, who was sitting there reading his book. He finished his book, and then we drew him into conversation, and he's just fantastic and going places. And I have to say that if you have not been to a writer's conference or some kind of writing community, I can't recommend it more highly. That kind of networking can be invaluable, and also it can be just really fun, really inspiring. It can bring you back and center yourself. So I recommend that. That's my entire update. I'm having a great time writing, getting stuff done, and getting closer and closer. NaNoWriMo for me starts tomorrow. By the time this goes live, a bunch of you will be doing NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. If you hear this on Friday, there's still time to join. You can join at the last minute of November. Just write a lot, write hard, write really badly. I encourage you to write some terrible stuff for NaNoWriMo, because all of that can be cleaned up later. That's the magic of Nano. I'm going to be writing the 3rd in the Ballard Brothers romance series, because boy, do I owe the readers that book. So that's going to be my focus, although I do have to write a short story before then. So I'm going to be nano-rebelling it a little bit. I got to do one thing and then jump into the novel. But I will keep you posted on how that's going. I hope that your writing is going smashingly. I hope that you are finding time in your life to fit those sentences in. And if you are not my friend, before you listen to Veronica, why don't you make a note on a piece of paper on your hand of when the next time is that you will put some words down on the page for yourself. And I would love to hear about it if you ever want to hit me up on email, Twitter, Facebook, any place like that. So enjoy the interview with the amazing Veronica Wolff, and we will talk soon, my friend. Well, I could not be more pleased today to welcome my friend, Veronica Wolff. Hello, Veronica.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you.
I'm excited to be here.
Listeners, you should know that I strong-armed her into this. So I've been trying to get her on the show for ever since I started. So finally she gave in to my repeated asking. So let me tell you a little bit about her, because she is fabulous. Veronica Wolff is the best-selling author of over a dozen books spanning several genres for both adults and kids. Penguin Books published her first 13 titles, some of which were also translated into German and Portuguese. Her first book, Master of the Highlands, which is awesome, a time travel romance inspired by real events and figures in Scottish history, won the National Reader's Choice Award for Best Paranormal Romance of 2008. Then Isle of Night, the first in her Teen Watchers series, won the same honor for Best Young Adult of 2011. She lives with her husband and 2 teenage children and currently focuses her efforts on young adult and middle grade fiction. Did you know that I read Master of Highlands way before we ever talked?
I did not know that.
And then I had like a fangirl thing. I'm sure I must have mentioned it like the first time we talked, but yeah, just had like this fangirl thing. She's
That's
way
sweet of
too
you.
cool to ever want to talk
Jeez.
to me.
Hardly. Thank you. It's
So
crazy.
it's
Crazy
crazy,
talk.
and we've been friends a really long time,
A long time. Yeah.
and Veronica and I go just back and round about things like motivation and revision and always wanting to get the work done. So I'm super excited to have you here today, and I want to hear about your process and the good things and the bad things and the awesome and the angst. So tell me all of it. I would love to know what your writing process is.
Oh man. I mean, I feel like I try to rebuild that wheel every single day, sadly. I don't know. I've got the kids and I've got parents in town who I also take care of. And so
Yeah.
there's not kind of a daily schedule that I can stick to. And I have to be up in the morning to take my son to school and get everything going. But really, like, if left to my own devices, like whenever I'm on like a writing retreat, I'm, in bed at 3 a.m. and up at 11. And,
I didn't
so
know that about you.
so I really struggled with that for a long
Yeah.
time. Like, when do I write? Because really my ideal writing time, I think, might be like 2 to 8 p.m., which is just like not possible
That's not
to,
ideal in anyone's life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so I'm really, well, you have had the most amazing advice recently. You've been talking about the break the seal thing, which is like
Yeah.
totally blown my mind because I've been trying to do that and that really
Can
helps.
you kind of define what that means to you for anybody who might have missed that podcast where I talked about it?
Yeah, so it's basically, just getting going. I mean, not necessarily first thing, because my first thing is, feeding the dog and
Yeah.
driving the boy, and does everyone, have food? But
Yeah.
it's like, before I get sucked into email and Twitter and dishes and all that stuff, I, do like 45 minutes with my manuscript, and it makes it so much more accessible through the day. Like otherwise it becomes this monolith where it's like, okay, I'll start after lunch and then, oh, no, I'll start at 2 o'clock. I'll start after school. I'm a nighttime writer now. I'll do it at night. And then like by the end of the day, I'm like, it's 11 o'clock if I start now, and it just, so if I could, like, as you say, break the seal, like if I just kind of get that going first thing, it becomes so much less daunting
Yeah.
throughout the day. It's just easier to kind of dip into through the day.
And the excuses don't have the same amount of weight. Like when you're saying,
Right.
I'll do it at noon, I'll do it at 2, I'll do it at 6. Every time, not only are you pushing it, but you're also making yourself feel like shit. So that, I don't
Yeah.
know, that just doesn't work for me. So breaking the seal is awesome. And this is something I don't know about you, although I know a lot about your process. If given your druthers, with no other time competition on your hands, would you be more of a daily writer or are you more of a binge writer?
Um, I don't know. It's so hard to say because, like, ever since I've had kids, I've been writing, and so um, I would say, I mean, I do definitely binge, but I think for the mental health, it's better for me to kind of do something creative daily.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I kind of go a little loony.
And
Um,
where's your favorite place to write? Do you write at home?
uh, that's another thing I experiment with. I've had back problems, so
Yeah.
I've got a standing desk with a little treadmill, so it's a tread desk,
Do you like
which
it?
I love. I love it, but I can't revise. Like
Yeah.
it's good for creating words, but when I am like tunneling in and like tweaking sentence by sentence, I really need to kind of tunnel in. But sitting can be tough on my back,
Yeah.
so I struggle with that. I've been trying to, do like a stop by cafe on the way home from school in the morning and just do like an hour there. Or I've, friends who I'll meet at a Starbucks every once in a while in the afternoon, or I don't know.
Did I ever tell you
But
that I had a tread desk for a little while?
no,
Yeah, I built the jankiest one you've ever seen. Like it was $150 treadmill, just a treadmill, but very slow that I got on Amazon. And then I tried to put a shelf in the wall and I dismantled the handles of the treadmill.
Uh-huh.
So I had everything precariously balanced on this terrible shelf that really didn't hold anything, and it was like I literally had to use duct tape to it, and the treadmill wasn't the right height, so I had to prop it up on manuscript pages, and
Yeah.
I fell off once during
Oh
revision.
no.
I did during revision
Oh my
because you
gosh.
can't revise on a treadmill. It's
Yeah, it's
impossible.
hard to do. Yeah. Yeah, I looked into like Craigslist. I was like looking at all these used treadmills and
Don't
I
do
just
it.
decided you have to get the
Yes.
tread desk. Plus, it's built to run at a very slow pace for like 8 hours. So it doesn't, burn out like
Yeah.
the regular treadmills
If I were
do.
going to get another one, I would save up and get an actual good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pro
Yeah.
tip.
Yeah.
What is your biggest challenge when it comes to writing?
It's like breaking that seal.
Yeah.
It's just sitting my butt down. And it's funny because I know intellectually, like, once I sit down and am in it, then I get angry if I'm interrupted. Like, I'm super in it. But I will find every excuse not to just open that document. Yeah.
Huh,
So,
you must be a real writer. What is your biggest joy in writing?
um, I've got to say, it's been like just meeting my little tribe, yourself included, really. I mean,
Right? Yeah.
yeah, totally. I mean, I wish I could go back to my teenage self and be like, you're not an alien. You will one day find your people. And that has been the biggest gift, has been just meeting so many wonderful people.
I
Yeah,
agree. I
yeah.
so agree. I never thought about that before, but I think a lot about going back and telling like the 20-year-old me or the 24-year-old me. Those were probably my hardest years. And all I wanted to do was be a writer. But if I had been able to tell myself that not only will you be a writer, but you will be surrounded by people who are exactly like you, but also different in many ways, like, and that you love so much,
Yeah,
that little person's head would have just exploded. I wouldn't have been able
totally.
to understand it. So,
I would not have been able to wrap my mind around
yeah.
that. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the absolute best or worst writing advice you've ever been given?
Oh, so I've been thinking about this, and it's funny, I'm loath to talk about bad writing advice because if someone's giving you advice, it means they're like trying to help
Oh,
you and
come
it
on, Dish.
is something that helped them. But the thing that really messed me up for a large chunk of time was entering a writing contest. Everyone's always like, enter contest, which, once
Everyone
you have a
says that.
completed, yeah, and once you have a completed book, maybe that's a different thing. But I entered one of those ones where it's like, the first 30 pages or
Hmm.
something like that. And I got back, just the comments were like ruthless, line by line, and so subjective and so granular in a way that just like, I don't know. And this ended up being Master of the Highlands,
Oh
but
my
I
God.
could, yeah, but I was like way too fragile to be sending it out to some stranger, across the country for them to read it. And I put it down for like 6 months because I felt so bad. Like, I've been right all along. I am an imposter. So, um,
Oh, that's
so that was,
awful.
yeah.
I have
So
never entered a
writing
contest.
contest.
I've always heard that. Oh, I take that back. I entered one big contest when my book was done,
Yeah.
and that felt a little bit different. But I don't.
But that's still hard. Like those
Oh, it's
Rita ones, and
hard.
you're like, I do want to see the scores, and then it's like,
Oh, for
what
the
does
Rita,
it
I
even
always say no.
mean?
No scores. I don't want my scores. I can't change it. The book is published.
You're a stronger
I'm
woman
going
than
to
I.
know.
I'm like, I just have to know. Put on my flak jacket and like, look at those numbers.
I love that. Your
uh,
got your eye protection.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share a craft tip about anything?
Yeah. So, one thing that has helped me, like my big struggle is kind of finding the love, like remembering the love. And there's a young adult author named Stephanie Perkins who has a thing called a love list. And what she does, and I did this for my last book, is at the beginning of a project, she will write a list of the things she loves most about her idea or about the project. And I tell you, when I'm in the weeds and I've lost my way and I'm hating the thing and I think like, what am I even doing? I look at my little list and it's like Oh yeah, the floppy-haired blacksmith and the like chiming creepy clock echoing through the halls, or the creaking stair, or like the Scottish Highlands, or like some specific thing, and it just kind of gets me. It's like a little compass pointing, and it gets my heart back in it, and kind of gets me back on track
I absolutely love
emotionally.
that. I
Yeah,
have
so
never heard
that's
anything like that, and I'm going to adopt it for every project I do now.
good.
Because there's always that moment where you're just like, not only am I an idiot, but I hate everything I've ever done in my life. Why am I
Totally.
beating my head against this wall?
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
so cool.
And you're like editing the same paragraph for the 30th time. And it's like, okay, time to go back to like 30,000 feet and like
Oh,
remember what the point is.
oh,
So,
I have a file in my email that I don't know where the term mash note comes from, but you know what a mash note is?
no.
Mash note is a real old fashioned term, like maybe early 20th century. People would pass mash notes, and they were kind of like love notes. Girlfriends would give them to each other,
Oh, I
and it was,
love that.
yeah. And so I have an email file that I keep called mash notes, and I've kept it ever since like maybe 2005. So whenever, maybe before that, when I started my blog, whenever anybody would send me an email that really, really meant something to me, that made me feel good, I would put it into the file that I could look at if I ever felt like the imposter, which I always feel like the imposter. But I
Oh, yeah.
never, it's funny, I've never actually, I think I've gone back through the MASH email file once after a particularly horrifying review that left me like in body parts on the office floor. But just knowing it's there makes me believe in the back of my mind that I'm somehow still a writer. So
Yeah.
along those lines, like just having that love list can make you remember
Yeah.
that this book is worthy, that it's
Yeah.
worthy of being written by you.
Yeah.
I completely love
I
that.
love mash lift. I wonder what the
Mash notes.
etymology is
I don't
about.
know, but I'm going to
Mash.
Google it. I'll Google it and let you
Yeah.
know, because there's
Awesome.
something like probably. I always thought it was vaguely wartime like, but maybe that's just when I heard about
You're
it. But
thinking like Alan Alda
it
mashing
might
it.
be.
You're thinking of the 70s TV
That
show,
might
I
be,
think.
because I probably heard about MASH notes, which were from like the teens and 20s, right when I was in the 70s watching
Yeah.
MASH, and I probably
Yeah.
conflated the two ideas. That's embarrassing
Mobile
that you
Army
know that.
Surgical Hospital. Probably different etymology.
I had no idea
Yeah.
that's what MASH stood for anyway.
Oh, yeah.
All right, there's a lot of things that we learn on this podcast. One of them. All right, when you have self doubt or the very, very dark days, how do you deal with it?
So you mean dark months, right?
Yes, yes, dark months, dark years.
No. Uh, You know, I turn to you guys. Like I turn to my
Yeah.
friends, and like I've got the core group of people who, even when I don't feel like a writer, think of me as a writer, and it's good to
That's
just like
huge.
even be among them, even if I'm like writing, kid-related emails while I'm at the Starbucks table with them. It's like, okay, this is like this is where I've been and this is where I'm going, and I just need to remember that. So that, and also just getting out of the house really
Yeah. Yeah.
helps. Yeah, I've been doing writing dates at the museum. You and I've done one.
Yep.
But like walk around, look at some art.
I've
I
had
don't
a
know,
I've
sit in the
had an
cafe.
art craving lately, so maybe we need to do that soon. I need to
Ah,
see some art. And you're an
yeah,
artist, and
no,
you know
I'm
this
an
stuff. But
artist.
you didn't you get make major
I
in it?
studied art history. Yeah.
That's all. You know all this stuff. Okay, and on really bad days, if you couldn't write ever again, if you could choose any profession, what would it be?
So this is a funny one because it's funny you don't know this because people who know me well know this answer instantly. And so I live along the beach.
Uh-huh.
The house overlooks the ocean, and they are regularly out there like doing exercises and on super blustery, like when the waves are crazy, they'll come out in this tugboat and they for like an hour will just aim that tugboat right into the waves. And I think, what choices have I made that I'm not like on a tugboat somewhere, like, wind in my face and I don't know. And then, they'll do the surfer rescues a lot and the helicopter hovering over the water. And I don't know. It just
That's
seems like
that makes so much sense
really
for you.
vibe with the Coast Guard.
That makes so much sense. Did you know that they are the highest rated in terms of happiness of all the military branches too? Like
Really?
coasties love being coasties. They
I mean,
love
they're
it.
on the water helping people. It just seems pretty great.
Saving, yeah.
So,
When I was in 911 and whenever we would need to utilize them because I always worked jurisdictions with a lot of ocean or bay around them, it just always seemed like when I would call them and say, you know, I need your boat over here to do this, and they would just be like, "Yes, ma'am, we are on the way. Here we come." It's just very high satisfaction in terms of job, I think. All right, well, we need to get you on that boat. Good, good, good. I love that.
right.
What is the best book you've read recently, and why did you love it?
Oh, you know, this is hard because I consume a lot of books
Yeah,
all
yeah,
at
yeah.
once. So, I usually have like an audiobook going and a book. And I've been reading a lot of short stories lately, so maybe I'll give you a few answers.
Oh, yeah, please.
So I've been reading, I'm totally going to mispronounce her name, Annie Proulx. You know,
Yeah,
she wrote
yeah,
Brokeback
yeah.
Mountain. Is that how you say her name? Proulx?
Cruel, I think, yeah. Yeah.
And I had read some advice to read her because of voice, how
Yeah.
well she does voice. And I've been reading these like cowboy stories, and they're amazing. Just how deep that POV and how strongly she gets the voice in just like a very economical number of words. So that's been kind of blowing my mind, just reading her.
I'm going to check that out because I love a
And
cowboy story. And I haven't read her in years and
yeah.
years.
And then my most recent audiobook I loved by Ruta Sepetys. She wrote Between Shades of Grey, which was
Oh, I just
amazing.
returned it to the library because I didn't have time to read it. So you do really think
Ah,
that it's definitely worth it?
so good. Well, the audiobook is really good. And then I just did her latest one called Salt to the Sea, which I loved not as much as Between Shades of Grey, although maybe that was because it was Between Shades of Grey was like so kind of new and fresh to me.
Let me ask you a question
But
about Between Shades of Grey because I started it and I love the voice and I worried if it and I love dark, but that just it seems so dark and hard to read. And
you know,
my lazy heart just said, "Oh, is it gonna hurt too much?" And I put it
you,
down.
I have to have a good ending. Like I
Okay.
really, I and that's one of the things that she's so great with because she takes these, they're set, at least these two books are set in World War II and there's
Yeah.
just horrors. The Between Shades of Grey is like a Russian prison camp in Siberia, and Salt of the Sea is this like the most horrific maritime disaster in history. Is like over 10,000 people on this ship went down, and
Oh, that's actually more interesting to me.
yeah, and
Wow.
but it is not hopeless,
Okay. Thank you for
and
saying that.
that's all I'm going to say.
I'm gonna give it another
And
shot because people love
and
her.
yeah, and there is like love in there, and I don't know. I
Okay.
really, it's pretty special what she's done. So
Coming from you,
yeah,
I
yeah.
absolutely trust that. I will
Oh,
go get it
good.
from the library again.
But I know what you mean. I can't read it like I don't like
Sometimes I want to go as dark
really
as
bad.
possible, but okay.
Yeah.
And where can we find you online? Where do you hang out?
So, well, my website's veronicawolff.com. Wolf has two F's, but I don't know. I'm never there. I'm on Instagram at / Veronica Wolff, Twitter, Veronica Wolff, and then Facebook is I think it's Veronica Wolff fan page.
Okay. And I know you
Um,
don't have anything out real recently, but if I were to ask you what the favorite book you ever wrote was, what is that? I'm not sure of the answer.
huh. I think it would be one of my Scottish time travels. So, like, I really loved Lord of the Highlands, but I think that I loved it because that was the easiest one that I wrote. It was like number 4 in a series, and I just come back from one of my trips to Scotland, and it just
It
like
just wrote itself.
flowed for
Yeah.
me. And plus, it's like this, tortured, scarred hero, which,
Oh,
oh
my
my God,
favorite.
give me a tortured, scarred hero any day of the week.
Does he have a limp? Because if he has a limp, I
Yes.
really,
Yeah.
that's my
And he's
man.
a real guy from history who's like, Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm reading next.
Walking. And then I'll give you a copy. But then the one that people seem to love the most is the people love like the Watchers series, which is my young adult series. And the first one is free. So
that's very cool.
Easy. Yeah, for a little while still.
I haven't read that yet, but I do know that people love that from you. So it's on my list.
Very different from the Scottish stuff, but anyway.
Thank you so much for allowing me to browbeat and flirt you into being on the show, because I really needed to talk to you. Plus, I get to see your face.
Yeah.
So, all right. I wish you very, very happy writing, and I will talk to you very soon. And thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.